So, hello everyone, and welcome to today's explainer session. I'm Pratham Sikka, and I'm thrilled to have Enrique Lacal with us today. Enrique is the community lead and core maintainer at Hyperledger Firefly, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Enrique is a full stack software engineer at Kaleido with a rich background in blockchain, deep learning, and even self driving cars. He has previously led a team of software developers at IBM, contributing to the Watson Orchestrate project, and has a strong foundation in server-side development and Swift. So, welcome Enrique, and thank you for joining us.
Hey guys, thanks Pratham for taking the time and organizing this. Well, yeah, as Pratham mentioned, I'm Enrique. I'm the community lead and maintainer of Firefly, Hyperledger Firefly, and I'm a full stack software engineer working at Kaleido. We are a blockchain enterprise company.
Cool. Let's dive in. And yeah, so Enrique, could you just start by introducing yourself and your role in the Firefly project?
So I'm Enrique Lacal. I've been the community lead of Firefly for a while now, and I'm also a maintainer. So I think I would split my work in a couple of different roles as part of the Hyperledger Firefly project. One of it is running the community, so answering questions on Discord, reviewing issues that people raise on different repositories of Firefly. We have a few of those. We'll explain in a later. Um, Reviewing PR and reviewing code and merging different contributions from different maintainers or different new contributions to the project. But also, part of it is also writing code, right? Being a maintainer of it, contributing new code to it for new features, and finally running things like this, right? Contributing to Q&As and webinars and sessions with the Hyperledger Foundation team and running community calls, right? So really going to different events as well and talking about Firefly. So some of it is running the community and making sure the community is healthy, answering questions on Discord. Some of it is reviewing code and merging code and just being a developer. And another of it is also being more of like a DevRel type of person, talking to people about Firefly, joining webinars and workshops and events and all that.
Got it. So I believe you're doing everything it takes to make Firefly get the initial traction and the considerable attention which they deserve. So, yeah, if we talk about Firefly, for a newbie like me, what is Firefly? When was it developed, and what was the initial goal of the project, and what does it aim to solve?
So so a little bit of context of why was it introduced and who initiated it. So as mentioned earlier in the introduction, I work for a company called Kaleido. And it was Kaleido who introduced this project and open sourced it into the Hyperledger Foundation. So it was about 3 years ago where this project was open sourced. And the idea it's trying to solve is it sits as the middleware and the gateway into Web3 for different organizations. So over the many years that Kaleido has been running Web3 blockchain projects and building projects for customers, we've realized that most of the time for software engineers and developers is spent writing this middleware in their applications. This middleware, which is responsible for submitting transactions and listening to events from the blockchain in a reliable way, signing transactions, which makes it very tiring for developers to have to reinvent the wheel every time and write that type of software. So that's why we introduced Firefly, which is a very blockchain agnostic middleware, and it allows different organizations to enter the Web3 world from a Web2 background and be able to talk to different blockchain systems and blockchain ecosystems. Well, one of the problems that it solves is an organizational problem as well, which a lot of organizations having to learn about Web3 and having to build such a layer is quite complex from an engineering perspective. So having to build a stack to reliably submit transactions and reliably listen to things on chain and being able to sign transactions is quite a challenge for a lot of businesses. So open sourcing this and allow them to build on top of it really rapidly accelerates them building their own business logic on top of it. So that's a really important piece of Firefly. Another piece of Firefly that aims to solve is enabling consortiums and multi-party systems to be able to communicate between different members of a consortium system where obviously they're using different blockchains or the same blockchains to communicate in this consortium network, also having the ability to send messages privately. So it was created to really radically simplify and drive adoption of blockchain technologies for these organizations and companies and not have to reinvent that wheel that we talked about to submit transactions and listen to events from the blockchain and really speed up organizations and engineering cycles, but also to drive new use cases such as consortium and build solutions that way.
Got it. So use it without having the intricacies of blockchain, and yeah, just make sure you integrate it, and more than that, solving the problem of like Web2 developers not having the entire context of blockchain as a service. So yeah, got it.
Yeah, so one of the things we did in Firefly was we can generate Web2 APIs, so Swagger or Open API, HTTP APIs for smart contracts. So you can deploy a smart contract into, for example, Ethereum or Fabric, and through Firefly, you can say, hey, I want to generate an interface for that contract, and I want to generate an API for that contract. So now instead of having to use a tool like Web3.js or different blockchain tools to sign the transactions submitted directly to maybe JSON RPC calls to a chain, you can use the Firefly APIs and onboard all your Web2 developers that are used to Open API to be able to sign and send transactions. And Firefly will sign the transactions for you. So it becomes a lot simpler to manage smart contracts and invoke smart contracts to Firefly.
All right. Great, great. Thank you for that insight. That sounds fantastic. Moving forward. So, yeah, other than transactions, also a lot of more use cases in the real world. So, yeah,
Yes.
let's drive the discussion over here. What are some real world use cases where the key features of Firefly have been effectively implemented? Could you give an example of some organizations which are currently using Firefly, and what are they doing and what are they able to accomplish?
Yeah. So as part of working for Kaleido, we work with a wide variety of different companies across different sectors. And I would encourage you to look at our website, Kaleido.io. We have loads of logos in there and loads of companies and loads of scenarios and use cases that we've worked towards, and really several real world scenarios where we use Firefly in production for these companies. But I'll give a few examples in different sectors. One of the ones that is quite famous where blockchain really can help solve a lot of problems is in the supply chain management space, right? Where you're trying to track goods in real time, you want to verify shipment, you actually want to streamline processes, right, across your supply chain. And in those scenarios, what you want to do is you want to build applications where members of that supply chain management pipeline are part of the same blockchain system, right? They have a source of truth on the blockchain around where their goods at, and there's transparency in the blockchain. And as part of that, these companies using supply chain don't want to learn about having to write their own layer, as we spoke about, to be able to manage those transactions and make sure they just want to write their supply chain specific knowledge and business logic, so they can use Firefly to do those sorts of things, even to write to multiple blockchains if that's the case for the whole chain. Another one is healthcare, right? Healthcare is really important, right? There's a lot lots of healthcare systems in the world, and where Firefly could help is in that multi-party area that we talked about, where you can do data coordination. So a lot of the healthcare records need to be private, right? And you might have different healthcare institutions in a consortium. You might have different healthcare insurance providers or different organizations, and they might be using blockchain as a source of truth. But what they want is privacy, right? They want the privacy over their patient records to regulate with the different privacy regulations in different areas of the world. So they can use the multi-party part of Firefly to send private messages, but at the same time use a blockchain as a source of truth of those messages being sent. And finally, another example of a consortium is an energy sector. So very similar to the healthcare one, it can be used to share information about um, maybe energy usages across different companies. So we've worked with different energy consortium companies to use Firefly, and we've run this in production for a number of years now, um, to allow them to build their applications on top of Firefly. So yes, I think I put a link. I think you'll share later different links after the Q&A into the list of companies using Firefly as part of Kaleido or just as part of the open source.
And yeah, be it a private blockchain use case or a public or permission blockchain, Firefly handles it all. And you can do
Hmm.
pretty much anything with as far as transactions, and not just transactions, but security and messaging and tracking stuff is concerned. Cool.
Yep.
So moving to the next question, how does Firefly support enterprise blockchain applications and what are the benefits? Cool. As you discussed, one benefit in the construction sector which you're using, that they can track all their things, and the other one you mentioned was the healthcare aspect of it, like privacy in the records of the patient. That thing is leveraged using Firefly. Please build a little more upon this. What are the benefits? If I would want to list benefits, then yeah.
Sounds good. So yeah, so as we mentioned, obviously Firefly is open source, so that's a key benefit for
Yeah.
enterprise blockchain companies trying to adopt Firefly. The idea is that it really simplifies your tokenization landscape. So being able to rapidly build tokenization solutions, which is quite common nowadays and really popular in different enterprises. Another feature of Firefly is that it really enhances you to interoperate with different multi-chains. So when you want to have your application talking to different chains of, for example, different Ethereum chains or Fabric chains, you can use Firefly to talk with those different chains and do some sort of interop where you're moving assets and tokens across different chains. It can really help you as a middleware to talk to one familiar API and be able to interact with multiple chains. And as we spoke about, it really accelerates the development of blockchain applications. So instead of an enterprise having to spend the cycles understanding blockchain and how transactions work and how to do signing, etc., they can use Firefly to accelerate the development of their internal applications. So yeah, so the primary mission of Firefly, I think we can cover it as well. It's all about me being able to invoke your smart contract logics and then stream those events effortlessly back to your application. So it will, under the covers, what's really important and the core engine that is quite a sophisticated engineering piece is that idea to coordinate between different messaging platforms. So the idea that we can Firefly Core will coordinate between the data sent off chain as part of this private messaging that we spoke about for privacy and what occurs on the chain. So it will coordinate the transactions that happen on the blockchain with the private messaging, and that allows companies to build workflows and orchestrate workflows on top of that orchestration that Firefly does. Really, the Firefly core engine is both an orchestration engine to orchestrate transactions and messages, and also allows you to send transactions into the chain if you're not using just the multi-part, if you're using the gateway mode. Um, yeah, that's basically it. I think the main key is just for enterprises, the benefits is you just rapidly on a stack that's been proven in production, that's been open source, so there's no lock-in, that is very pluggable, so it allows you to build on top any enterprise um, layers that businesses want, and that has a community behind it. It can really accelerate the development of Web3 applications.
Cool. And one question which is coming to my mind currently is that, like, is it agnostic of whatever tech stack you are using? Because do we have SDKs for each language? For example, if I have a Java application and an application built in Next.js or say five different tech stack, so how will I ensure that as swiftly I can connect Firefly to one tech stack, like I can connect it well to any other application with considerable ease. So is it language agnostic or do I need to do something else?
So that's a great question. So we have a Node.js SDK. So we have an SDK for JavaScript developers to be able to interact with the Firefly APIs. All of Firefly can be interacted to different APIs. And I think one of the things that is in the roadmap for the project is to have a Java SDK. So we've seen that we have a lot of consumers that want to use Java, especially as the underlying sometimes blockchain clients such as Hyperledger Best who are written in Java, we're getting more Java developers involved. So having something like a Firefly Java SDK is definitely something that I see that could come into the Hyperledger project to enable more developers. But the idea is that yes, it's an API. So what these SDKs are doing is just interacting with the APIs and understanding the data coming back. So decoding the different types of messages and events and identities and transactions that Firefly exposes.
Got it. So even Hyperledger has so many different projects under its umbrellas that like they have not left any tech stack, any major tech stack. That also it's meaningful because people can contribute irrespective of whichever tech stack they have come like knowledge and expertise in. For example, anyone who is familiar with Python or anyone who's a Java developer or someone who finds his core in JavaScript, everyone has like they have project for everyone to contribute to. So yeah,
Exactly. Yep.
cool. Now yeah, let's switch gears a little bit. Without getting too technical, can you give us a high-level overview of Firefly's architecture and how components interact with each other? What is the technology like? Not entirely a system design, but a just a top-level view of how Firefly works and how the components interact.
Sounds good. So I'll give a bit of an overview, and then I might show a picture of how these components work. I think it's easier to understand when there's a picture in front of people. So Firefly has a very pluggable architecture. That's how it was designed to be extensible to any use case. So it has a Firefly core runtime, which is the core piece of engineering. That is what we've called Firefly core. It's a Firefly repo in Hyperledger. And the idea is this is the key orchestration engine. So it will orchestrate the transactions, the events, the messages, and interact with all the other plugins. So it will interact with, for example, the EVM Connect plugin to send transactions to EVM, or with the Fabric Connect plugin to send Fabric, or with the Tezos Connect to send to Tezos. It will interact with the database layer. It will interact with the messaging layer, etc., etc. So it will be the core orchestrator, and it will also be the one that exposes all the APIs to be able to invoke and create new transactions, submit transactions to smart contracts, and it's really the heart of Firefly. Around that, we have, as I mentioned, a set of plugins, right? We have a plugins for transaction managers to be able for different blockchain technologies. We have off-chain messaging tools to be able to send messages between different parties in the system, different database supports. We also have different token indexes. So token indexes or connectors are specific components in Firefly where you can where we have two of them, which are support the ERC 721 and 20 and ERC 1155 standards to be able to index different types of events. So these are specific Ethereum connectors. So it's a higher level abstraction than just a transaction. You were now talking about minting a token or burning a token or creating a pool, etc. So we have different pluggable layers. So, and most of the components really are written in Golang and Node.js. So everything's very pluggable, very extensible. We've defined a very good interface. And along with that as well, one important component is a signing piece. So signatures of signing transactions can be extended with different maybe HSM technologies in the future to be able to sign transactions like that with different enterprise requirements. So let me see if I can share my screen for 1 second. So hopefully you can see my screen. So this is the one I wanted to share. So as you can see at the bottom, we have the Firefly core Go process. And the gray box will be all the orchestration part. So it's orchestrating across different plugins. And it has APIs at the bottom to be able to invoke those APIs around sending transactions or sending messages or hey, let me subscribe to some events I care about, things like that. Inside that Go process, you have the different interfaces. So an interface for persistence. Hey, I want to be able to store data. Oh, tokens. Let me teach about different types of tokens. Oh, let me connect to different types of blockchain, for example, Ethereum or Fabric, etc., or Corda. Oh, let me do some identity, right? I want to map this key on chain to an identity I know about in my organization. Data exchange. Let me send some data privately. public storage. Oh, let me send some data publicly. I want to broadcast, for example, IPFS, some data that I want everyone to know in the system. Or, hey, I care about events. I want to be able to listen to events through maybe WebSockets or webhooks, for example. And on top, the layer at the top is all those external microservices that we call them, those components where you have different types of specific plugins for specific technologies, specific areas, right? So on the left-hand side, plugins for different SQL flavors, Postgres, SQLite, different plugins for tokens for supporting different token standards, different plugins for different blockchain technologies, Fabric, Core, Ethereum. Same thing goes for exchange, right? The data exchange, public data, etc. So this is where it's very pluggable, where one of these interfaces at the bottom defines a very generic way of communicating with these plugins. And you can see an end user coming along and contributing, hey, a new way of maybe doing data exchange with a different peer-to-peer technology of sending messages, for example. So I wanted to share that to really understand that it's really pluggable. Um, and there's no really lock-in here, so enterprises come along and contribute their own connectors for their own technologies, really.
Got it.
Cool, awesome.
Oh, yeah. So, if we can have a macro level overview of the code base and how to go about it so that the contributors can get an idea and the starting point. I guess you'll need the screen for this as well, right? I shouldn't have shared it so
Oh
soon.
yes, I'll go for it. So let me share my screen again. Sorry about that. So hopefully you can see my screen.
It does take a while. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Now it's visible.
If you go to the core Hyperledger repo, right? Hyperledger Firefly repo, there's obviously a link to our documentation here, to our latest documentation, understanding the different Fireflies and getting such. And we also have a contributor section. We have a code hierarchy here that is also copied into the README here, and this will explain a little bit how the code is structured on the core Firefly repo. So we have a entry point, right, for the Firefly, and we have a set of internal packages for an API server, for our open API, for documenting our different APIs, right, through Swagger and OpenAPI 3.0, a WebSocket server for being able to listen to events from and send events to different consumers. We have an admin section as well. And then what we have here are different components for different parts of Firefly. So we have a core runtime orchestrator that's going to orchestrate the different plugins and talk for documenting our different APIs, right, through Swagger and OpenAPI 3.0, a WebSocket server for being able to listen to events from and send events to different consumers. We have an admin section as well. And then here are different components for different parts of Firefly. So we have a core runtime orchestrator that's going to orchestrate the different plugins and talk to those plugins. We have different components for maybe private messaging and for broadcasting, and this will interact with the different plugins that we've talked about to be able to send those messages and broadcast that to public storage. We also have a data manager, so you can upload data to Firefly. For example, when you're doing NFTs, you might want to upload a picture of the NFT, or you might want to upload a document to associate with a transaction. So we have a JSON storage and a blob storage capability here, etc., etc. So we can see that there are different packages underneath Firefly that each have their own responsibility in terms of, and these are just plugin agnostic. Okay, these are components that handle a specific piece of the architecture, but then underneath the covers you will have each plugin specific implementation. So you will have that plugin for Ethereum, right, to talk to the Ethereum connector. So this, just to give a bit more of a the Firefly core image is one image, and then there's an image for the Ethereum transaction manager, for the Fabric transaction manager. So these interfaces here in code are calling those Ethereum
Each.
APIs in the transaction manager either over a WebSocket or over HTTP. So then you will find all the plugin implementations around tokens, shared storage, data exchange, API authentication, database interfaces, and so on. And then on top of that, we also have utility functions, right? So we have very shared code for building REST clients and WebSocket clients and translation frameworks, etc. So this is the architecture of the core Firefly code, which is the core repo, which I think contains most of the code. Um, and then some of it is, hey, just internals. Let's set up an HTTP server, a WebSocket server, etc. Other of it are called agnostic components, right? So orchestrators and sending events and managing messages and sending storing data and public data. And then at the bottom, you'll have the plugin specific um, code to interact
Implementations
with
for,
different plugins.
yeah,
Yes. So
got it.
implementations, yeah. So most of this is written in Golang. I think, all of this is written with Golang. But if you look under the umbrella of Hyperledger and you search for Firefly projects, you will see all the different plugins, right? You will see those transaction managers, the signers, the exchange, the Helm charts as well for be able to deploy Firefly, the SDKs, etc. So you will see all of the different projects.
Got it. So Firefly itself is predominantly Golang. Like more than 97% of the code base is Golang, but yeah, we have SDKs for right now JavaScript and in the pipeline for Java and major tech stacks, which industry relevant use cases are there. Got it.
Yep, that's it.
Cool. Thank you for the insight on this. Now, yeah, speaking for contributors, how can, if let's say I am a new contributor, so how can I get started with Hyperledger Firefly? What are some set of things I need to take care of? What are some initial things starting from the contribution guide? Like, is that where I should get started? Cool.
Yeah, so definitely there's a contributors guide. I'd recommend reading that. It's on our website. We can link it after the Q&A. And yeah, no experience is needed in blockchain. There's loads to go there as you can learn as you go. Is what I like, right? You can get engaged, start coding, start asking questions. I've tried my best to find some good first issues across the board. So if you're interested in a specific plugin or a specific part of Firefly, there are good first issues that you can take a look at that are relatively challenging for you to start learning about the code base and start having questions, but easy enough that it's not overwhelming for you to be able to not get over them. And as well, if you don't find anything that suits your skill set, but you still want to be involved, just obviously reach out to me on Discord. There are loads of areas open for contributions, right? There's documentation and all sorts of things. But yeah, how do you get started? Well, first of all, read documentation, understand what Firefly is, read the contributing guideline, find good first issues, and join the Discord community. Get involved, ask questions, and just try it out, right? Try to build something with it, see what you can do with it, and let me know.
Cool. So got a few pointers. Read the documentation, read the contribution guide, and then filter hashtag first good first issues. And yeah, in case of any doubt or anything, when you get blocked or something, reach out to Enrique on Discord. And yeah, the community is pretty much
Perfect.
like really responsive, and I see communication going on Discord in full flow. So yeah, maintainers are really helpful and welcoming. What are some areas where contributors can make a significant impact? Like there are code changes, then there are documentation changes. For example, good first issues like documentation may also need some polishing, or maybe we need to develop or write steps according to a certain tech stack and code contributions, community support. Yeah, I think we have good first issues. And for seasoned contributors, could you please shed some light on this aspect of it?
Sounds good. So, yeah, documentation is really an area where it'd be good to get more folks, especially if things are not clear for people that do not come from a blockchain background. And also the getting started guides. We have a lot of guides around communicating to different chains and listening to events and minting tokens and sending messages. And yeah, so if things have become rusty or things you've tried them, oh, this doesn't work, or oh, this thing doesn't work, like awesome, just raise a PR, change it, test it, and let me know. Other areas, tools, right? We've spoken about we have a CLI for Firefly. So we have a CLI to get you started with Firefly, run a stack locally in Docker, Compose. Yeah, contribute there, try to add new things to it. New configuration options for Firefly, for example, and then SDKs as well, right? We have a Node.js SDK. Oh, there's a Java SDK in the pipeline soon. Um, yeah, or maybe you want to write a new SDK for a different language, for example, right? Feel free to join and contribute there. And then yeah, just for the good first issues, if you find one you like, assign it to yourself. Let me know if I can help you. We can have a chat on Discord around how the next steps are. I can give you pointers in the code. And yeah, I think the community is quite supportive. So if you join Discord and you ask questions, you'll get myself or other maintainers in the ecosystem. And we have maintainers with different experience, right? We have maintainers in the transaction engine experience. If you find an issue there, we have maintainers for token indexes with really a lot of experience there. Firefly Core maintain. So we have maintainers across the board that have experience in different areas and will help you become a seasoned contributor, hopefully in the future. And then finally, where I would recommend joining is the community calls. So we have a community call every month where you will learn about new features, about new things that are going on, and there's no dumb questions. You can come along and ask about any issue that you've raised or issues that you've assigned to yourself, and get to know more people in the community.
Got it. So, yeah, TLDR is just set up the project locally and try to make sure any changes. When you have a look at the documentation, you feel that there's something you can add to, make sure you do that, raise a PR, and don't hesitate to lurk in. Just join in any community call, and as he said, no question is stupid. Like, feel free to ask whatever you want to, and yeah, everything is an initiative. You are uh, like looking to get started, and the community also wants to welcome you. So, yeah.
Exactly. I know it can become daunting a little bit because there's a lot of code in Firefly and it can be a complex architecture to get started with. Um, but yeah, there's great resources out there in our documentation and people, maintainers in Discord that will happy to help you.
One question, like for example, this is a kind of thing when I am trying to contribute to any open source contribute like organization to not get intimidated by the entire code base. What I do as a personal principle is that I try to open the file which has the least lines of code or smallest or the most fundamental aspect and start getting the hang of the project from there on. So I start with the smallest particular file. That is something I do. I don't know whether that's correct or that's an industry practice, but like works for me. So yeah, what would
So
you give as a tip to someone who's getting intimidated by this large code base?
yeah, that's good. The way I approach that normally, and I have in the past, is always look for the entry point. That's how I do it. So what I'll do is like, oh hey, this is an HTTP server? Oh, cool. Let me see what routes it has on it. Let me open the HTTP server file. Okay, instantiate a server. Cool. Oh, it has these routes slash messages slash transactions. Okay, let's dig into the message. What does it call? Oh, it calls this thing. Oh, cool. Oh, this is like a message handler. Cool. Okay, it does this. So it's like for me it's like going from like the entry point of the code, so where are the APIs, into the different levels underneath and kind of like peel back the layers of abstraction. And then what you will find with Firefly is you will have an HTTP server, then you will have loads of different components in the middle. Each of those components will call its own abstractions and its own plugins, and then you will just start to understand how like it's a web of things going through the code base. And you can just either take one path, so you go all the way from one API call all the way to the bottom of the stack to see how a message gets into the database and stored, or you can just go to all of them and just look at each layer together.
Cool. Pretty interesting analogy and got the insight. Thank you very much for this. Moving forward, we are coming to the mentorship and support section. So, yeah. What resources? As we said, community calls is one thing. Webinars, events, workshops, and documentation. What would you recommend to someone who wants to start contributing to Firefly? What are these resources which people can look up to?
Definitely. So we have a YouTube playlist with the Hyperledger Foundation YouTube channel. I had a look at it this morning. It has a lot of content in there around a lot of we used to do architecture sessions. Would recommend watching those. There's loads of the really, really good insights of the architecture of Firefly by Peter, for example, Peter Broadhurst, and Andrew Richardson and Nico Greer. They did a lot of those sessions. There's webinars and workshops as well in there. So yeah, I recommend consuming those, and yeah, just trying out the different getting started guides on the documentation.
Got it. And yeah, I think we also have this mailing list. We have a dedicated mailing list for Firefly also, right? So yeah, people
Yes,
can
we
join
have
in
a
and
mailing list. Yeah, so the mailing list you get notifications. For example, we did a 130 release recently a few months ago. I did a webinar, so they can start joining those sessions when they're available.
cool. So we'll add the link in the description, guys. Please join the mailing list so that you don't miss any update when it comes to Firefly or Hyperledger in general. So yeah, coming to encouraging community engagement. Like community is the essence of any open source project. So yeah, how can contributors get involved in the broader Hyperledger community beyond Firefly? So we have so many different projects and yeah,
So yeah, so Hyperledger, yeah, under the Linux Foundation, has a lot of different projects, from EVM clients to identity projects to things like middleware tools such as Firefly and others. I think it's always good practice to look at documentation, try the project out. If you're interested in that kind of area, look at those good first issues and just, or if you're shy for a little bit before picking up an issue, look at Discord. Add that channel to the left hand side in Discord and keep an eye on it, right? That's what I do, right? There are projects I haven't been involved in Hyperledger that I find interesting, and I'll just, from time to time, I'll read the Discord a little bit, see what people are doing, see what people are building, maybe try out some of their tutorials. And then if I really want to get involved, I will probably look for good first issues and in those repositories. So Firefly is a graduated project, but it's definitely active. Definitely loads of new things going in still, new releases, new features. So even though is graduated this year, loads of things in the pipeline for people to contribute.
got it. Cool. So yeah, how important is community feedback to the development of Firefly, and how can contributors effectively provide their input? Yeah, like I think code reviews will also be an aspect which comes in community feedback, right? Because, for example, I submit a PR and then you review and suggest some changes, I implementing those things. So yeah, those kind of things.
Yeah, so I see the feedback going both ways, right? I see the feedback from the community towards Firefly. So, hey, is Firefly solving your problems, right? Do you want anything new in Firefly that you cannot solve today with Firefly, right? Oh, is it really hard for me to run Firefly, right? So we've recently improved a lot of our Helm charts to be able to run Firefly in a more cloud native Kubernetes deployment because people were asking us, hey, can we get this running? So we definitely listen to feedback to improve Firefly in many ways. I'm sure there is. Um, but yeah, for sure, it can also go the other way around. Hey, making maybe teaching people that are not very familiar with Golang how to code Golang more effectively as part of Firefly, and making them think a bit more around how to code against a blockchain, right? How to code in an asynchronous way against a blockchain. So yeah, definitely I would encourage feedback in both directions from the maintainers of Firefly towards new contributors and from just people in the community using Firefly either in just for development, for research purposes, for production use cases, to highlight to us through issues, GitHub issues, or to Discord their problems and maybe propose some solutions. We even have something we call the FIRE, FIR, which is the Firefly improvement proposals or requests. Um, so where people can request new improvements to Firefly, and we have a process there where you can write a markdown file of new things you'd like to see in Firefly.
Only, right? And if there is some security issues, for example, some API key or something, has not been stored in an environment variable, some security breach is there. If I find some sort of that particular issue, where should I report it? Because I think that should I mail it to a certain email address? That wouldn't be as a GitHub issue as I would particularly think it to be.
That's a good point. Yeah, yes. So people could email me directly or message me on Discord privately. That also works.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we get normally emails for that sort of thing. But touch wood, we haven't had a lot of security problems in Firefly yet. And just because of the nature of it, it wouldn't be that exposed to different security breaches.
So I guess we operate on the principle of least privilege or something like that has to be
Yep.
essential when we are operating in such a category and transactional information and things like private data is being taken care of. Got it.
Yep.
So yeah, as we plan to wrap up, yeah, where can viewers find more information and stay updated on latest developments in Firefly? And yeah, how can the community reach out to you or other maintainers if they have questions or need some guidance? So yeah, pretty active Discord
Yeah.
community.
So for the latter, I think the word we've used the most is Discord and GitHub. So yeah, Discord community is active. You can reach out to maintainers there when you have any questions, any issues. How can you find more information? So we have a release notes for each release we do. We have community calls, as I mentioned, to stay up to date with the new features, the new roadmaps, roadmap for Firefly. And yeah, just look at the PRs for the latest development, right? Everything's open, so you can go and check the code. You can go and check our fire proposals, um, discussions, issues. We really try to every discussion to be in issues and always be documented so people can go and check. And even on PRs, you will see some very lengthy PRs with loads of discussions and back and forth between different maintainers on, hey, should we do this or should we do that? So that's where you can find information. And even you can use tools like watching, right? You can watch different GitHub repos. You can sign up to our mailing list to be able to get notified of new things going on.
Got it. Sounds good. Cool. So yeah, finally, what advice, like one piece of advice you would give to someone interested in contributing to Firefly but may feel intimidated?
So first of all, just give it a try, right? Like if you're building something using an app, right, or using a Web3 app, just give it a try it out. If you find any concerns, create an issue, reach out to me. And if you still feel intimidated, that you think like, oh, okay, there's a lot to learn about blockchain. I think we give a really good explanation of documentation and entry level into blockchain a little bit, into different concepts that you will need to understand in order to contribute. So read documentation. And I know there's a lot of knowledge still in the documentation to grasp, and it's hard. And there are people that need to be hands-on to really understand and digest the information that is written in the documentation. So just reach out to me on Discord or reach out to different maintainers and stuff like that, so you can help you maybe break down the issue, so you can feel less intimidated. Maybe walk through the code with you to be able for you to contribute to the project.
Got it. Yeah. So cool. I think we have wrapped up with all the questions. And yeah, thank you so much, Enrique, for this insightful conversation. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm sure the listeners have gained a lot of like valuable information from this. Yeah, I would urge all the listeners to, not forget to join Hyperledger Firefly community on Discord and to keep up with all the latest updates. Make sure you join the mailing list as well. And until next time, yeah, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day and happy contributing.
Thanks, Pratha, for organizing it. Cheers, guys.